Morning, everybody. Today we're going to do a little bit more in-depth video than some of the other ones that I've done. But the common questions that I get, one that I see the most, that it has the most complex answer, unfortunately, but I think it's time to try and explain it as best I can. So apologies if not perfect, but we're going to get her done and we're going to see what we can do. So one of the biggest questions that I get a lot of different times is what's the difference between frankincense and sacred frankincense? And so to actually understand the difference, we got to really talk pretty in-depth here. And so we're going to be talking about chirality enantiomers, or more commonly called left-handed and right-handed molecules, SpaceTime Reversal symmetry, basically immortality, Jesus, we've got quantum physics, we got a whole lot of different things we're going to talk about. So we're going to just jump right into it to save us a bunch of time. So to talk about frankincense versus sacred frankincense, first part we're going to start in is chirality or enantiomers. Chirality or enantiomers are more commonly called left-handed and right-handed molecules. But these two different molecules, basically when we look at the main chemicals in here, alpha-pinene is the most common chemical in here. Alpha-pinene is really markedly known for its ability to interact with human DNA, specifically through something that's called NFKB, or necrosis factor kappa beta. Necrosis factor kappa beta basically is something that binds to the DNA and tells your DNA to start producing inflammation. This is the chemical responsible for when you get pregnant and when the baby is time to come out, these levels of NFKB will rise, these levels of inflammation, basically signaling to the body that it's time for the baby to come out. So what frankincense does, what it's really good at, both frankincense and sacred frankincense, because of its alpha-pinene content, basically what it does is there's another molecule in there called IKBA, and what it does is it basically binds to this NFKB transcription factor and shuts off the inflammation. It tells your cells to stop making the inflammation. It's not so great at saying, hey, yeah, we're going to take care of the inflammation that's already there, but it's very, very good at interacting with your genetics and telling your DNA to stop producing that inflammation. So that's a quick little note about what the alpha-pinene is that's in each one. Now we're going to get into chirality or enantiomers, or more commonly called left-handed and right-handed molecules. Left-handed and right-handed molecules, basically, my hands are identical. They have 5 fingers on them, they got a front and a back, and they look the exact same, and I could reverse them, but the thing is, they're not exactly the exact same. They look identical, but they're completely different, and this is why we call chirality and enantiomers left-handed and right-handed molecules, because the molecules, when we look at them, are absolutely identical 100%. But the thing is, when we shine plain polarized light through them, what ends up happening when it comes through, it changes the rotation of the light coming through. So when we have a left-handed molecule and the light gets shined through it, it causes the light to spin one direction, and then when we shine it through the right-handed molecule, the sacred frankincense, it causes it to spin the other direction. And so when we talk space-time reversal symmetry, we're going to talk about this. So basically, when your consciousness reaches a level that you start to understand the difference between classical physics and quantum physics. In classical physics, that's what governs macro-sized molecules. It governs the Earth, the rotations of the sun and the Earth, and our cars that run and other things. It's classical physics that we can describe it on this level where everything is interacting as particles. When we jump to quantum physics, however, we're now talking in the subatomic level. And in this subatomic level, things are both particles and waves. And when they're both particles and waves, the thing is, in this quantum world, atoms are immortal, and they can move forward and backward in time. Time to them really kind of isn't relevant. And so as your consciousness level starts to reach this, you start to realize, too, that time is not this linear plane that we often, due to our limited human perspective, when we're stuck in a 3D reality, basically, we see time as this linear thing, whereas time is really more of a Mobius strip that goes around and it folds on itself like origami, and basically past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. It's just our limited human perspective of the ego, of the human I am, limits us to this, where we think time is and where it actually exists. And so what ends up happening with frankincense and sacred frankincense, these are much of the teachings of Jesus, of this unconditional love, that your body is able to reverse its aging, because in the quantum world, we're made up of atoms, and atoms are immortal. And in this quantum world, past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. So our atoms in our body and our cells actually have the ability to move forwards and backwards in time, and that's where this left-handed and right-handed molecules between frankincense and sacred frankincense come in, because they change the way that our body and our consciousness views time in the present, so we can connect to either the past or to the future. And so when we get into optogenetics, when I talked about plane polarized light, of how it changes the rotation and the spin, optogenetics is the ability for your genetics to use light to signal to each other. There's ultraviolet light, infrared light, and even small amounts of gamma radiation can be used, like when you hit extremely high levels of meditation, you're able to now start absorbing and eating these forms of light, because we're all light beings. We found our mitochondria, if we give ourselves chlorophyll, when we're able to do that, our mitochondria are now actually able to eat light to recycle ATP and ADP. So our bodies, when we use these things, there's many journals in Nature that you can find that our bodies are actually able to eat light, and your consciousness kind of determines the reality that you live in. And so when we talk left-handed and right-handed between frankincense and sacred frankincense, we're going to call frankincense left-handed, because what it does is it's able to connect our body to the past. And remember, past, present, and future all exist simultaneously within us. And if I were to think of the future right now, I'm connecting what I view as present to the future. And if I were to think of a memory that I had, I'm connecting my present to the past. So we're able to view past, present, future all kind of at the same time. Light, because we're light beings, we're able to be everywhere all at once we kind of get rid of matter. And that's our ego. Our ego, or the Satan, is what keeps us trapped in a present moment, unable to view past and future as technically still present, because it's our perspective that determines what's past or present. And so getting into now the difference between the two, and a little bit better way to put this, frankincense with its left-handed molecule is able to connect us to the past and reprogram the past to basically release sins of a kind, if you will, of when we didn't act as if we were light beings and fully connected to the Creator. And so we obviously know when these actions happen, we have these trapped emotions. It causes cancer, is one of the big ones that we get, and the inflammation. And so what frankincense does is it's much better for dealing with problems that were caused in the past that we're still storing in the present. So our sins and our wrongdoings and our lack of connection to the Creator. And so, as basically Jesus would say, the unconditional love, the frankincense, the reason he would use these oils in the anointing, because when we use essential oils, and especially we pair them with like acupressure points, along with intention, it magnifies our intention. And when you start to step outside of the human ego and be able to step into the quantum world more so, you are then able to reprogram your cells faster. So frankincense is used when we've done something basically, let's call it wrong, or sinned in the past. We're able to reconnect to that past, bring it to our present, reprogram it, release it back to the Creator, and recycle it. And basically what that does is it will literally reverse time within our bodies, that our bodies now feel, and genetically, when we look at inflammation markers, will be younger, because we've connected to that past and then been able to release where those moments and the accumulation of these times that we weren't connected to the Creator in that unconditional love that Christ would have taught. And so sacred frankincense, it has not only an indole 3 carbinol, which is really, really interesting if you look that molecule up and what it does in the brain, but this one is better for connecting to meditation, prayer. I call this one the landline to God. It's the one that really helped turn my life around, of when I had basically a Christ levels, love for myself, finally saying I really need to turn myself around from my alcoholic days, and basically for being a really big dick to a lot of people, that basically my life was going in the absolute wrong direction. I was basically headed to death as a 300-pound alcoholic, and there was a day when I needed to speak to the Creator and say, listen, I got to do something different. Can you help me out here? And so I basically, with the pure unconditional love as Jesus would have taught, or the Christ consciousness would basically say, you connect to that. And I said, I really need some help here turning my life around. And so sacred frankincense, because it helps connect us to the future. Instead, it changes the way the light spins this way. Normal frankincense would be counterclockwise, left-handed, and connect us to the past. Sacred frankincense has a clockwise spin which connects us to the future. And basically what happened is you let go of the ego, or the Satan, or this 3D human I am, and connect to the ultimate I am. When you're able to do that, let go of this, you're able to connect to the future and change the path that you're moving on, because in quantum physics everything is probability. We as humans always have a choice to say, which way do I want to go with my life? And so it can be many times the ego makes it very difficult to say, I'm going to move from this current path that I'm on to realign to a new one, and that's where the ego becomes matter, and matter doesn't change like light can. But so anyway, the long story short, sacred frankincense helps us to reconnect to a future that is more aligned with God and more aligned with the divine purpose and Creator, because of its right-handed spin, that it connects us to that future that we can bring back to the present here. So that's the difference between frankincense and sacred frankincense. Is frankincense helps us connect to the past, to connect to those pieces that we didn't act in the way that we should have, and reprogram them, release them, unconditional love, and not get trapped in our negative, sinful past, and release that, and then come to the present, which can help reverse, basically aging and reverse time within ourselves. Because remember, quantum world, past, present, future, all exist at once. These subatomic particles can move forward and backward in what we view as time due to our limited perspective. And the sacred frankincense is for when you need, it's for the spirituality, the meditation, and the prayer, especially when you want to connect to a different and better future that is more aligned with the Creator, and bring that to the present and align yourself on that path. So, excuse me, spicy food this morning. Anyway, that is kind of the main difference. You can use them both at once, but it's better to, especially in the beginning, until you can start to wrap your head around past, present, future, and how you can reprogram them, because our thoughts are very, very powerful, and our thoughts are basically what connect us to the past or connect us to the future or even the present. So if people realized like how powerful our thoughts actually are, you would really, really watch what you're thinking about. So the teachings of Jesus and connecting to the Christ consciousness would be a wonderful way to use both of these oils to say, all right, I'm going to connect to the past and where I didn't operate and I didn't act in the ways that the Creator perhaps would have wanted me to ask. We can reprogram that past, bring it to the future. It may not be the most pleasant thing. It's probably going to be very emotional, because that's how we process and release time, is through emotions many times, because we get these trapped emotions stuck in the past that enough of them built up slow down and coagulate into physical matter, which become things like cancer and illness and disease, because we've accumulated enough of this negative thought patterns and negative energy that when it slows down finally and catches up with us, it turns into physical matter, and we have to release that matter back to be recycled. Transmutation and alchemy is something that people would be familiar with, and then so the sacred frankincense is when you want to align to a better future that's more connected to the Creator, that's more in line with the teachings of Jesus and connected to the Christ consciousness. And so always remember that surrender and getting rid of the ego or the Satan, which are very synonymous with each other. The Hebrew word for Satan is actually Satan, which means opponent, adversary, because we in this world have to have something to wrestle against, which that's Satan, that's Satan, versus the Creator. They're both flip sides of the same coin. They're chirality almost of Satan versus, we could say, Jesus or Christ, which is, Satan is the negative aspects, because in Kabbalistic teachings there's always light and there's always the dark. We have to have the polarity to live in our 3D reality. We have to have this polarity to exist, and so that's where we get our Satan or our ego or our opponent, our adversary, and then we have our Christ and we have our Jesus and we have our unconditional love and forgiveness on the other hand. And so as humans we always get the choice to go whichever way we want to go, and that is the difference between these two and how you would use them. And so anybody who has extreme depression, anything about frankincense and CBD, they're absolutely great together, because CBD helps to hit this vagal response, calm down the brain, neuroprotective properties. Actually, it's a really fun thing to be able to do, to use with the sacred frankincense, because of the indole 3 carbinol, which has mild psychoactive activity. Anybody who's used sacred frankincense and connected with it and the Creator, you'll definitely understand what I'm talking about. If you haven't heard of the spirit molecule in DMT, go watch that movie. Netflix, I believe, actually has it. Very, very wonderful, wonderful movie. I'm not advocating for drug use in any kind, but we are saying if frankincense and CBD together control the inflammation, because CBD is very good at suppressing inflammation that's already there, and the frankincense shuts off the DNA that tells us to create the inflammation within our cells. So it's left-handed, right-hand once again. We have our present future of the inflammation that's already there, that's caused from the past, and then we have the frankincense reprograms the cells to tell them stop making it in the future. So we're shutting off the inflammation from two different routes. So hopefully this has been very, very helpful for you guys. I know it's a lot of information, and it's a lot to kind of wrap your heads around, so you might have to listen to the video a few times to say, All right, neat. There's the, if you want further reading, you can look into the double slit experiment. Really, really good to look at particles or waves, because when we let go of the ego, when we let go of our mass, it's our mass of our ego of thinking this 3D body is all there is to it. That's what keeps us from basically achieving the speed of light and leaving behind everything else to where the entire universe is open to us all at once, the past, the present, the future, and being able to be there and connect with it and see it and being everywhere all at once because we've let go of the Satan, the ego, the 3D I am, and connected to the ultimate I am, where you can go anywhere, be anything, and do anything. And that's what makes, that's my favorite use for the sacred frankincense, is when you really need to basically speak to the Creator. Put some in your hands, inhale with prayer and surrender, teachings of Jesus or Christ, and connect to that Christ level consciousness of that unconditional love, so that you can align to that better future, so that you can hit that light speed and be able to connect to all of these futures, that you get to choose which one it is. It's just jumping between those realities in a 3D perspective. The Satan, the ego, or the mass, as we would also call it, you can make it painful. So as we get better at it, as we purify our genetics and our consciousness, and we become more aware of these things and connected to them, we can start to move to these better futures faster, and then also help bring other people with that direction, much like I'm doing with this video right now, of I'm giving you the tools to help you make those choices to move to this better future that's more aligned with the divine, that's more aligned with the Creator, that's more in line with the teachings of Jesus, and more connected to the Christ consciousness. So everybody have an amazing day. This is a little video from my reverend aspect of myself that I hope to be doing more of these videos like this. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy my, instead of being pasty white, a little bit of a tan that I now have from being in Florida. I am not a Young Living distributor by any means, so you can't get any of these products from me. I just like to do these videos to help people because I've been blessed with some really interesting knowledge and understanding, and it's my job to pass it along, because that's kind of what Sacred Frankincense, when I connected to that better future the Creator told me to do, was give the information away and share it so that people can do miraculous things with their life, and through connection to the Creator have miracles happen, which is, miracles are absolutely possible. If you don't believe in miracles, then they're not going to happen. So develop that spirituality, develop that connection to the Creator, follow the teachings of Jesus, and connect to that Christ consciousness of saying, this is the direction I want to move, and I'm trying to move, and anything that's in the past, remember, you're already unconditionally loved and forgiven for anything that's happened. You've just got to get yourself out of the way and let yourself be forgiven for it, because the Creator always loves you unconditionally. That's basically what Jesus taught, was that unconditional love at all times for all people and all things and all beings, and that can make us literally immortal, because we release the negative things and we decrease chaos and we increase order. And sorry, Jamie, I don't use Young Living, so just contact any Young Living distributor. I'm not one. I gave up my downline so that I could speak non-FDA compliantly about these things. So thank you guys. Have a really, really great day, and thanks for tuning in. And I'm going to go get some delicious, delicious waffles. I'm going to give thanks for it because I love waffles. So thank you so much. Have a good one.